But there is another problem that might have even preceded that, and it might be useful to just think of it in terms of the metaphor that Al Mohler gave us when talking about Andy Stanley's, rank heresy. And he titled it in a world opinion piece something like, "The train is leaving the station." And I thought that was a really interesting title. I called up my dear friend Christopher Yuan and I said, "Didn't that train leave the station in 2014? Weren't we at the conference?" And Christopher said, "Yes, it did." And I said, "Doesn't it seem like broad evangelicalism is just on cars that are just behind that, Andy Stanley's car going in the same direction?" It's almost like what broad evangelicalism does is it's about 5 years behind the culture. But because it's not exactly running at the same pace, it somehow thinks it's different. And, both Christopher Yuan and I were raised in Chicago, and we've, got on plenty of trains going into the wrong station. And let me tell you, if you're on a train going to the wrong station, you never think that having good dialogue on that train is going to turn the train around. You just get off at the first time you can and get on the right train. So I would say broad evangelicalism doesn't know what time it is. It's about 5, maybe 10 years behind the mothership. It was easily seduced by categories such as privilege and power. And then I would say you had that great problem of evangelical institutions um, giving their stamp of approval to these things. So a book that I think would be important, I mean, there's not enough Pepto-Bismol to get through the whole thing, quite frankly, but it's Nate Collins's book. The title is slipping my aged brain right now, but I read it in dissertation form, and it came out of Southern Seminary. And Nate Collins is the one of the founders of Revoice. Significantly, another founder of Revoice, Stephen Moss, did exactly what I'm talking about here, and he got off the train, and he is biblically married, and I believe has children at this point. And so, God's elect people are everywhere, and we just have to sometimes drag them out as though through the fire. But I remember getting roped into that dissertation by somebody from Southern saying, "Could you be the fifth reader?" And that's the fourth or the fifth reader on a dissertation is not somebody, it's somebody with credentials um, who does a little bit more than making sure the margins are right and the bibliography is formatted. I remember reading it and saying, "This is one of the most godforsaken things I've read as a Christian ever. What are you all thinking?" He mishandles both the Bible and critical theory and queer theory all at the same time, which is really kind of it's an amazing achievement. And I remember writing a letter to that professor at Southern that was the equivalent of, "Please take me off your distribution list." Um, um, and yet it was it it passed. Okay, like see, and this is my point. Bad ideas don't run a culture amok until the church starts applauding them.
Mm.
And we've seen a good bit of that. Maybe this was just the first time it came to my desk. And so we see it in book blurbs that are absurd, and in credentializing heresy and sin. And so that would I would say that is its origin.